How you guys doing? Hopping into Genesis chapter 15 is what we're on. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, no one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. He said, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and accounted to him unto righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, and give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, The Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them into the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell unto Abram. And lo, the horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in thy land, in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy father's peace. Thou shalt be buried in good and old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. And the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed I have given this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river of the Euphrates, the Kenites, Kizanites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Right? And this is what I love about the Bible, and you don't get this type of context until you really go back and read it, right? So in Hebrews, I think it was Hebrews probably, just because that book was so deep. That is my favorite book so far that I've read and like actually studied and understood, right? So this chapter, what did it say? Your seed is going to be like the stars in the sky. He had no seeds, but he trusted the Lord. And when he said, he believed in the Lord and counted him unto it as righteousness, right? He believed in God. He had faith, and it was counted unto righteousness, which was a vision for what we see today. This little verse right here that we take as like nothing. You know, he just believed in the Lord and counted it. What does this mean? This is a picture from what was to come. This is what Jeremiah exactly said. This is what Jesus came and did. This is what we have today. He had it back then. And you think, how does that work? Every man sins. Every man sinned. He did. But guess what? He still believed, and it was counted unto him as righteousness. So much so that he could be the father of nations, right? And then we take it further. He took all these things, divided them in the midst, laid one piece into another, but the birds he did divide not. Right? And when the fowls came upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. The sun was going down. A deep sleep fell upon him, and lo, a great horror of darkness said unto Abraham, Know that their seed and all that stuff, right? And blah, blah, blah. When it came to pass, some went down and became the pieces. The burning lamp passed through those pieces. And the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham. And Abram at the time, right? And Pastor Paul mentions in the sermon, right? If you go back and study the history of Jewish tradition, when they made covenants, what they would do is the reason I forget what it was, but I think the word covenant literally means to like cut up or something along those lines, or my bad, that's where we get our phrase to cut a deal, because when they made a covenant, which could be a deal or an agreement, right, they would take an animal and they would chop it up and divide it up and all this stuff, because this is what would be happening to them, basically symbolically, if they were to go against what they had promised, right? This is why it was such a big deal to swear an oath back in that time period, because when you cut a deal, you cut up this carcass as a symbolic message, as to say, if I don't keep my end of the deal, do what I just did to this animal to me, cut it up, dice it up, whatever, right? And so God said, get these things out. What does Abram do? He gets these things out. What happens? Sun went down. Deep sleep fell upon Abram. Great, and a horror of great darkness fell upon him. Right? And he's saying all these things, right? And it came to pass when the sun went down, a smoking furnace, burning lamp went through those pieces, went through the cut up pieces. The same day, that same time. The Lord made a covenant with Abram. And Pastor Paul said what this meant was that Abram didn't do the cutting up. Abram didn't do the walking through. I think you would cut up and you would walk through it, right? Abram didn't do the cutting up. And if he did, right, he didn't do the walking through, which means he didn't place the burden on himself, right? This burden, this covenant was made fully on the Lord. The Lord said, if this stuff does not come true, then to these animals will I be. Dedicating his pure, unwavering faithfulness to what he has promised to this man, Abram. And this is the creator doing it to the creator. This is something we can't really understand, right? It's not even equivalent, but the closest equivalent that I could help you picture in this moment would be your dad saying, if I don't do this thing, you can beat me up, right? You can whoop me with a belt. And you're like, not even 5 years old, right? You may be, well, yeah, let's say you're like 5, you're conscious, right? When you're 5, it's your dad saying, if this thing doesn't come true, you beat me with the belt, essentially. And you're 5 years old and you're thinking, what? Me beat my dad with a belt? Why did he just make this promise to me? When, like he just said, like, why is he making this such with high stakes in his eyes, right? The creator is doing this to the created. After God just killed everyone, flooded the world, said he wanted to be done with humans, saved some, the generations passed, and he says, unto you shall all the seed be as the stars in the sky. And to that, God said, if it's not that way, if after I decided to kill dang near all the humans and promise you then the stars of the sky and seed, y'all just chop me up. Do what I just, do what happened to these animals. Do that. Emphasizing his true faithfulness. And that to me is just beautiful. And that's insane. It wasn't unto Abram. This counted to him as righteousness, even though he didn't trust God later, right? He believed in him at this point, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And that's just beautiful. That's just beautiful. So I hope y'all learned something and you further this knowledge, or let me know what else you know about symbolism here, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.